Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, and this session is meant for class 11th biology students, and this is meant for 21st December 2020. As all of you know, we are into the revision mode and we are revising the entire syllabus after having seen a lot of videos about the entire syllabus, and this will help you to refresh your memory as well as to have a notes, clear notes, short and neat notes. So as I told you, you need to keep a separate notebook. Maybe you call it as a biology classwork. So keep on writing all this so that it will be helpful to you in the examination. As part of it, we are revising chapter number 17, breathing and exchange of gases. And in this, we first started defining breathing and respiration. And you know the difference between breathing and respiration, and we also studied about human respiratory system, various parts involved in that, and then most important, normally a 3-mark question, mechanism of breathing we learned, both inhalation as well as exhalation. Then different volumes and their values, quantity, pulmonary volumes and capacities we learned. I gave a lot of formulae. How to calculate total lung capacity, for example, vital capacity, residual volume, etc. Then we understood exchange of gases, how oxygen. Remember, I asked you one question. When we are inhaling, so many gases from atmosphere enter into our nostril, enter into our respiratory tract, reaches the lungs, but once they reach the blood, it is only oxygen that will be taken in. Other gases will not be taken in. I said, why? Why we can't take? Of course, now you must have understood the reason is partial pressure of oxygen. And in turn, we also talked about transport of oxygen, in what are the various forms oxygen will be transported into our tissues. And in that, the most important thing that I discussed is the graphical representation of oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. And in that, we talked about 3 important concepts. One is the Bohr's effect, that is increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide tension in blood brings rightward shift of the oxygen dissociation curve and thereby decreases the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. The moment affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen gets reduced, the oxygen and hemoglobin gets separated. We said this is Bohr's effect. Similarly, I talked about another important concept called chloride shift or Hamburger's phenomena, and we said it is mainly to restore ionic balance. The chloride ions diffuse from plasma into RBCs. So the movement of chloride ions from plasma into the erythrocytes to restore the ionic balance is called Hamburger's phenomena or chloride shift. And third, most important one we talked is Haldane Effect. And then in that Haldane Effect, we said that oxygen released from oxyhemoglobin during the reaction makes binding of oxygen with hemoglobin tends to displace carbon dioxide from the blood. So this tendency of displacing carbon dioxide from the blood is called Haldane Effect. And then we also said how brain is linked with our respiratory system and how brain is directly linked with our breathing. We said it is the medulla oblongata and pons varolii, which are part of our brain, will be directly responsible for rate of breathing. And also we said the medulla oblongata, consisting dorsal respiratory group that mainly causes inhalation, and ventral respiratory group that causes either inhalation or exhalation. And we also said pons varolii consists of pneumotoxic center that primarily limits inhalation. So the chemical regulation of respiration is under the control of chemoreceptors located in the carotid bodies and aortic bodies in the brain. And today in this session, we are mainly focusing on disorders of respiratory system. So before that, what are the functions of respiration? Of course, energy production. How energy production? Because of respiration, what is respiration? We said oxidation of glucose. So once glucose gets oxidized, we understood Krebs cycle, 36 ATP, glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain. So as part of it, two byproducts will be formed, that is H2O and CO2. CO2 will be released out and oxygen will be in. So this is the energy that respiration gives us. And maintenance of acid-base balance, maintenance of temperature, and return of blood and lymph. These are the main functions that respiration will do. And then there's something called mountain sickness. It's a condition characterized by the ill effect of hypoxia, shortage of oxygen. Nowadays you must be hearing this, hypoxia. If you keep, of course government has made compulsory that all of us should wear masks because of COVID-19. But then continuously you should not wear. Continuous wearing of masks will result in hypoxia, shortage of oxygen. So when you are alone, when you are in an open place where there is no crowd, you can remove the mask and have a lot of inhalation of oxygen. So this hypoxia in the tissues at high altitude will be caused, and this person going to high altitude for the first time. See, whenever you are climbing a mountain for the first time, you are not able to breathe properly, and unable to breathe properly will result in hypoxia, and because of hypoxia oxygen shortage will be there in the tissues. That will make you to get tired quickly. That is called mountain sickness. What are the symptoms? Loss of appetite, no hunger. Appetite means you are not feeling hunger. Nausea, vomiting sensation, and actual vomiting occurs due to expansion of gases in digestive system. Breathlessness occurs because of pulmonary edema. Edema is accumulation of water, edema. So pulmonary edema, there is accumulation of water in the lungs. That's how breathlessness takes place. There will be headache whenever there is shortage of oxygen. Depression, you are under stress. Disorientation, lack of sleep, weakness, and fatigue. So these are the symptoms of mountain sickness. And then disorders that are associated. One is the very common one, asthma. It is due to allergic reaction to foreign particles that affect the respiratory tract. The symptoms include coughing, wheezing, and difficulty in breathing. This is due to excess mucus in the wall of respiratory tract. And basically asthma is allergic. Allergy is caused due to allergen. There are substances that cause allergy. These are called allergens. Like normally for many people, it is the seeds, pollen grains of Parthenium, Congress grass, that will be very allergic. For some people, powders, certain brand powders are allergic. And you will be surprised, for some people even gold is allergic. So different people develop this allergy because of the varieties of allergens. So one need to identify why person is getting allergy based on the proximity of the allergen. Allergens vary from person to person. Okay, that's how asthma will be caused. And then most important one, emphysema. This is repeated last in your board exam, annual exam. Is the inflation or abnormal distension of the bronchioles. Remember, bronchioles, the branches of bronchus, alveolar sacs of lungs. That is, there will be disshaping of this. This occurs due to destroying of septa between alveoli because of smoking. That's why be careful. Smokers need to be very, very careful. It is better to quit smoking. And inhalation of other smokes. So because in a smoker, when he smokes a cigarette or a bidi, there is nicotine, and this nicotine having inhaled will destroy the septa in the alveoli. Even sometimes there will be rupture of lungs and even accumulation of water in the lungs. So that causes emphysema. So the exhalation becomes difficult and lung remains inflated. That's how emphysema will be very, very difficult job. So it is a reduction in alveolar ventilation because of loss of elasticity and distension of alveolar sacs and bronchioles. Cigarette smoking and chronic bronchitis are the causes of this disease. In this, the alveolar sac remains filled with air even after exhalation. As a result, the lung size increases. So that is very dangerous one. And the third one, occupational respiratory disorders, we say ORD. It occurs due to occupation of an individual. Like my occupation is teaching. What is my respiratory disorder can be, since I write on your blackboard normally in regular classes with the chalk, lot of chalk dust I inhale. So inhalation of chalk dust will interfere with my respiration. So this is caused by inhalation of gas. Sometimes those workers working in factories that release a lot of gas, fumes, and dust, of course, in coal industry, glass industry, sand industry, lot of dust. And Bijapur, you just simply walk near Gandhi Chowk, you will have a lot of dust. So these are the things that will prevent or become obstruction in our respiratory tract. And if this is happening in our workplace, then we say occupational respiratory disorders. So this includes silicosis, asbestosis. You must have seen that sheets will be there on the floor, on the roof, asbestos roof. So in these factories, lot of dust will be released, and this exposes silica and asbestos. The symptom includes proliferation of fibrous connective tissue of upper part of the lung, causing inflammation, lung inflammation basically. So occupational lung diseases are very common in persons who work in an environment where they are constantly exposed to potential harmful substances such as gas, fumes, and dust. It is characterized by proliferation of fibrous connective tissue of upper part of the lung, causing inflammation of the lungs. And then we come to the last one, that is pneumonia. Don't say pneumonia, P is silent. Pneumonia. It is acute infection or inflammation of the alveoli of the lungs due to bacterium, very, very dangerous fellow, Streptococcus pneumoniae. That's how the name of the disease is pneumonia. Alveoli become acutely inflamed, and most of the airspace of the alveoli is filled with fluid and dead white blood corpuscles, limiting gaseous exchange. Look at that. So this is very, very dangerous, pneumonia. So it is an acute infection and inflammation of alveoli of the lung. If alveoli are closed, then how exchange of gases will take place? That's how this is a very, very dangerous disorder. And normally people also suffer with what is called bronchial asthma, bronchitis. The bronchus gets inflamed. So it is an allergic attack of breathlessness accompanied by bronchial obstruction or spasm. It is generally caused by hypersensitivity of bronchioles to foreign substances. Coughing or difficulty in breathing are common symptoms of this disease. So in one way, we must be thankful to COVID because we start wearing masks, and the mask will prevent all these dust particles and other allergens, so that we will not have this disorders of respiratory system. But at the same time, you must also remember that continuous wearing of mask will lead to hypoxia. So take care of that. Breathe.